This letter was written for his graduating high school class in hopes that how Dave would be remembered is not for the event that ended his life, but for the life he lived. And those of us who loved him wanted to ensure that we gave other people thoughts and memories and images aside from the last one. Dave's humor and smarts and willingness to try anything kept him surrounded by friends who basked in his radiance. He was the life of the party, eager to make people laugh and enjoy the night, and always the last one to bed. He is defined by his many quirks that kept us on our toes, by his sharp and skillful wit and humor, his unbelievable intellect, his unwavering loyalty to loved ones, and more than all else, his grin that could reflect deviousness, love, pride, humor, or a gorgeous day.
Dave was about 7, 8 years older than me, and when I was in 1st and 2nd grade, he was in high school, and we were both living at home together in Rye, and he could have me do anything for him, and some of the times when I was skeptical, all he would have to tell me was that it was going to get me another notch on my karate belt. This story is ridiculous for a lot of reasons. One, I didn't even have an actual karate belt. He didn't change the colors at all. He would just keep it all in his head and tell me, you know, this will get you a brown belt. And I didn't even know. So I was like, is that better than a green belt? I like green better than brown, you know.
I found that, you know, no matter what we were doing, we just inevitably would have a good time. There's this sort of thing you say about someone could have fun in a paper bag. I mean, that was what it was fun when you were with Dave, no matter what you were doing.
We were at a bar, and I was single at the time, and he was single at the time, and he was telling me how to pick up women, which I am terrible at, because I had no confidence. And he said, the key to picking up women, the easiest thing in the world, you go up to the most beautiful woman in the bar, you make some small talk, you ask for her number, she says no. 5 minutes later, you pick the second most beautiful woman in the bar. You walk up to her, you chat her up, you ask her for her number, she says no. Remember that feeling. That feeling right there is the worst thing that can happen when you go up to somebody in a bar and they reject you. It's nothing to be scared of, and the only way you're ever going to be successful with this is if you put yourself out there. He was the most confident person I had ever met and made me a more confident person. And yet, clearly, he struggled with his own self-worth.
We'd seen him go through periods where I was worried about him. You know, there was a period when he wasn't working and he wasn't in school. And I remember that time, I remember having conversations with him, like, Dave, you really need to do something. Like, I'm worried about you just being in your apartment by yourself. And he was always so intelligent, so much more articulate than I was, that any conversation that I began, I always ended feeling like, oh, he's okay, you know, he's got it figured out, he knows what he's doing.
After all this time, you know, finally you come to accept that he chose to take his life. What's been harder than accepting the way he died has been accepting that he was depressed for so long. That to me was the biggest surprise, more than his death, was that he had been living with depression for so many years, silently struggling with this.
I have this letter that my mom wrote me around Valentine's Day of 1979, so I was just 5. And the last phrase is one that I heard, you know, nonstop for most of my childhood and then even adulthood. And she's like, you know, love you, sweet, take care of Dave for us. And there's a lot of that remains, you know, this feeling that I will never shake, that I didn't take good enough care of him. And I know that Dave hid his depression because he wanted to hide his depression, but if, you know, if there's any way that this foundation can sort of help people take better care of the people that they love, you know, that's why I'm in it.
I think the field of law often draws very intelligent people and also very organized people, people who really sort of are detail-oriented and really sort of like to have all aspects of their life in control. And I think that sort of personality oftentimes can breed depression because things spiral out of control and you don't know how to fix it.
The mission of the Dave Nee Foundation is to educate society, specifically right now law students and lawyers, for people to be aware of the symptoms of depression in themselves and in their friends and family, so that they can recognize it and not feel ashamed about seeking treatment.
If we can get it at law school and get people to understand that just because you're highly intelligent, just because you're highly successful, that doesn't mean you're immune from this problem. It's a problem that affects everyone, and you need to actually deal with it now, rather than let it spiral out of control.
Dave was a really generous person, and he cared about people so much, and he would want to help the way we are helping people today. And I hope people leave with that thought and with some nice memories of what a wonderful person our friend Dave was.
There is so much more, and hopefully you have your own memories of Dave. A funny story, a time he smiled at you and asked with utmost attention and interest how you were. A time in Wareham staying up until all hours of the morning, an image of him listening intensely to a teacher and founders, or a secret he took seriously and guarded for you. Maybe you remember him lying peacefully on the grass on the quad, where he inevitably twirled a blade of grass between his teeth with his baseball cap pulled down over his eyes.